Hello, I'm Isabel, and this is From Mud. Like a lotus flower floating effortlessly on the surface in all its beautiful glory, it is a symbol of resilience. Because that same gorgeous flower grew from the icky, sticky muck and mud just below the surface. Something beautiful grows from something dark and cold and unyielding. It grows from mud. This channel is all about resilience and wellness in the face of life's challenges. Thanks for joining. Hello, I'm Isabel, and this is From Mud. Like a lotus flower floating effortlessly on the surface in all its beautiful glory, it is a symbol of resilience. Because that same gorgeous flower grew from the icky, sticky muck and mud just below the surface. Something beautiful grows from something dark and cold and unyielding. It grows from mud. This channel is all about resilience and wellness in the face of life's challenges. Thanks for joining. Hello, friends. Thank you for coming back to my channel to listen to this episode today. If you're new here, my name is Isabel. I am a Master Certified Health Education Specialist, Certified Diabetes Care and Education Specialist, Certified Fitness Trainer, and I've been working in the field of health and wellness for the past 13 and a half years. And today I am looking forward to discussing a topic that I think most people want to work on as far as health goals go. In my 13 years of working with folks on these things, we'll discuss some concepts that I think are helpful to think about when you're working on these types of goals or when you're just living through wild times like most people are, especially right now. There's so much going on around us. There's so much going on in our personal lives, I'm sure. There's things going on in our communities. There's things going on in our countries. There's things going on worldwide at all times. This is the human experience. And I'm going to say something that might be a little controversial for some people, and that is that we are responsible for our stress management. Of course, that's not to negate when harm is being done to us and that is out of our control. I'm not saying that when harm is being done and you are suffering at the hands of somebody else, that you're responsible to manage your stress well. I just mean if you are a person who's just going about their life and you're just fielding typical types of stress, it's your responsibility to try to do what you can and to advocate for yourself to get the support, assistance, medical help, everything that you need, anything that you need to manage that stress. It is your responsibility to do what's in your power and within your abilities. Of course, that's not going to be perfect. Of course, that doesn't work for everyone. There are some people who are doing all they can and still not able to manage. That's a reality. It's not a guarantee, but I work with people on lifestyle goals and health and wellness goals and things like that. And it takes a lot of self-responsibility to work on those things. It takes a lot to just say that there's a lot out of my control, but these are the things that are in my control. And working within that in my control space as far as actions go, building habits and routines around managing those things that are in your control. And the things that are out of our control, we are just learning to accept and cope with those things. So I want to dive into that today. I think that could be beneficial for a lot of people right now. I want to kick things off with actually just defining what stress is. I love this one website called helpguide.org. Evidence-based, reputable, quality information backed by evidence, backed by research. So this is a really great website. They have a bunch of great stuff on mental health, health and wellness, children and families, relationships, aging well, screenings, all kinds of things. So I highly recommend to check it out. I've always enjoyed this website and found a lot of good information that I share with patients and clients that I've worked with over the years. So I'm going to go there and read you their definition of stress on their website. Stress is the body's natural response to danger, either real or imagined. When you feel threatened in some way, your body activates the stress response or flight or fight mode to keep you safe. Stress hormones flood your body, physically energizing you and increasing your mental alertness. This enables you to cope with an emergency situation, whether it's fleeing danger, coping with a work deadline, or swerving to avoid a traffic collision. When activated constantly, the stress response stops being useful and starts to cause damage to your health, mood, and overall quality of life. That's a pretty great definition of stress. So, stress isn't necessarily a bad thing. It is just a natural response our body innately has, right? We have this internal wisdom in our body. Our body was designed to warn us when we need to be alert about things. It's just that in the past, in the very distant past, our body would only need to use that alert system to warn us of mostly physical dangers. Well, our body is going to react the same way, whether we are being chased by lions or a rival tribe, or we are just stressed in traffic, or we're dealing with a stressful human that we don't want to deal with. Our body interprets it all as life-threatening. Then when you have chronic stress, right, it's your baseline. I've worked with people who don't even know what it feels like to not be stressed. The stress has been their baseline since they were children. Some people are just in a stressful time of life and have been for years, and that's their baseline right now. That chronic stress, because that is an emergency system for your body to experience. We're not supposed to be constantly in stress mode. It wears out your body because physical things are happening in our body when we're experiencing stress, right? So I'm going to actually go down on the same website, helpguide.org. What are some signs and symptoms of stress? Stress comes with physical, cognitive, and emotional symptoms. Physical symptoms include increased heart rate, rapid breathing, tension in your body as it prepares to fight or flee, and it doesn't mention a lot more here, but literally your blood pressure goes up, your blood sugar, your body is releasing blood sugar, it is stopping digestion, it is doing a lot of physical things in your organs because it is thinking you are in a life-threatening situation. The body is like, we are not going to eat right now because we are focused on running from this lion. We are going to, get our heart rate up. We're alert. We're looking around. We have this hypervigilance. And when people become accustomed to that feeling, that is just your baseline. That's when that damage continues because you're going to have that increased heart rate and blood pressure, right? And that's causing damage to our arteries. That is causing damage to our heart. It's causing damage to every single organ system. If you have high blood pressure, it affects every single organ system. And you don't always feel when you have high blood pressure. So you can't always go based on whether you feel it's high or not. That's why they call it the silent killer. In my opinion, uncontrolled high blood pressure is what caused my own mom's heart failure and kidney failure. So real things are happening in your body when you are experiencing stress. If you're experiencing stress as a one-time thing, okay, your body can handle that. That's what it was designed for. Not designed to live inside of the chronic stress experience. So if you know that that's you and you are chronically stressed, if you're able to do something to bring your body back to a relaxation baseline state, and that will require certain things. And I'm just going to list a couple things that I have, because this is a question I typically ask when I do health coaching one-on-one. I always ask these two questions: how they feel they are managing their stress on a scale of 1 to 10, and 10 is like, I'm doing great. I know how to manage my stress. I cope with it well. And I also ask kind of like, if the conversation allows or leads here, what are some of the primary sources of stress to see what we can do within those areas. And I ask the person what types of relaxation activities they typically engage in or have enjoyed or enjoy in general, so that we can really have these conversations about truly managing stress. And to me, truly managing stress means knowing what you need to bring your body back to that relaxation baseline. I wanted to just say that I have heard all kinds of things of what people like to do for relaxation. There's a lot of different things you can do. And I will just say some of the things that do not actually relax your nervous system and therefore bringing you to a relaxation baseline or a neutral baseline. Anything to do with screens, basically anything to do with screens is not going to allow your body and your central nervous system to actually relax. It might be good distraction, and sometimes we do need those, and it might just be like an enjoyment activity. And joyful and enjoyment activities are also important to our quality of life. And again, assuming that it's done in a healthy way and it's not affecting your life in a negative way, that would be a whole different conversation. But anything to do with screens, like watching TV or movies, playing video games, or other kinds of games on your phone or other screens, things like that don't typically physically relax your nervous system. I heard this one time, and I can't remember where I heard this or read this, but we want to think about stress management as more of an active activity. It's not a passive activity. You have to be engaged and present and intentional in order for stress management and relaxation activities to be useful in the goal of physically relaxing your body and therefore your mind, or vice versa, relaxing your mind and therefore relaxing your body. They work together. So we want to do things that are actually intentional and engaging you and activating you, and you are active in the process of relaxing your nervous system. So typically things like watching a show or playing video games, it's very passive. You might enjoy it, or it might feel like it's helping you with your stress, and it might be, but it is probably not physically relaxing your nervous system. And I think that distinction is so important when we talk about stress relief and stress management and relaxation. I also wanted to just say that if you have a goal this year and that goal has to do with weight loss or sleeping better or other health and wellness things. Let's say you have diabetes or pre-diabetes and you want to manage those, or if you're pre-diabetic, you want to walk it back into a non-diabetic range. You have any kind of heart disease, any kind of breathing issues, lung issues, cancer, any of these things. If you just work on stress management, if you're a person who is not managing your stress well, that goal alone of just focusing on stress, don't even worry about the other goals. Just focusing on stress will improve, or I should say has been shown to improve all of those things, or can improve all of those things significantly and help you cope with those things better. Because think about weight loss, right? If we're trying to work on a weight loss goal, when you're stressed, your body is going to release certain hormones that in the moment might make you feel less stressed, but it can go either way, right? Because initially your body is going to say, don't eat things, we need to survive, conserve. But in other situations, your body may be like kind of experiencing stress in a way of overeating, right? We've all heard stress eating. The reason that that's a thing is because if we're stress eating, our body is like, this is a survival situation. We do not know if we are going to be able to eat later. So just grab all the nuts and berries that you see. And of course, nuts and berries are nature's calorically dense offerings. Today, we have very highly processed, calorically dense items that can become, some may call it like addictive, or can cause these compulsions to overconsume. And it's because your body might be experiencing stress and thinking, because of the survival nature of what you're feeling, the fight or flight that you're feeling, you may have an increased appetite. Some people, it goes either way. So stress can affect, it just depends on which way. You would know yourself better. So if you want to just work on stress, that is a perfect foundational piece of wellness that will only benefit you. And in my opinion, it is a required part of managing your lifestyle wellness, managing your health and wellness. So yes, this is definitely something if you want to just pick one goal for this year to really work on and focus on, stress management is a completely worthy goal. Even if your main goal is weight loss. And then remember, if you listen to my last episode on setting and achieving health goals, our overall goal, right, by the end of if I use my model that I was kind of talking about last time, the overall long-term goal by the end of 2026, if you want to see yourself managing stress in a better way, a good way to kind of quantify that and anchor that is to give yourself that rating, on a scale of 1 to 10. How do I feel like I'm managing my stress? And if that is a 1, managing very poorly, mark that down somewhere, right? And then by the end of the year, you check again. Or if you have your halfway point, you check in the middle of the year, you check at the end of the year. And you can also answer those questions if you want to take my questions that I always ask, which is how well are you managing your stress on a scale of 1 to 10? And another question to just jot down or think about is how many things are you stressed about, or what types of things do you stress about, or what types of things cause you the most stress? And the other question would be, what are your relaxation activities, right? What do you do to manage your stress? So those would be some good questions to kind of write out and revisit by the end of the year to distinguish or to decipher how well did you do on this goal, right? That would be the long-term view. The smaller views would be looking at those. You could look at the things that are causing stress, and if you can, in a healthy way, in a non-avoidant way, remove items off of that list. That's a good place to start, is like, can you just disengage from things that stress you out? For example, if you stress over social media or you are a doom scroller, that is a very worthy approach to manage that type of stress. And I wanted to share some things that I looked up specifically about social media. And I think social media kind of goes in the same category as where news used to go. People used to get really stressed out about news back in the day, and people still do, but they just are consuming their news differently than it used to be. So we can look at those individual things that stress us out. Is it our home life? Is there something stressful going on with our home life? Is there something we can change about it? Our work life, is it something there? Is there somewhere we can adjust and adapt in there? Like if you are a chronic workaholic and you bring your work home, that would be something you can work on, is just trying to leave work at work, something like that. Or, is it something about your commute? Do you always go a certain way that is stressful? Is there a time you can leave that's better? We're trying to problem solve within each of those things. So we can look at the causes of our stress, and it might require that we just write it down. What are the things that cause us the most stress? And then looking at those things, are these things that we can change? Sometimes it's a no. Sometimes we're just enduring. And again, we're going to use some of these coping techniques that physically bring our nervous system to a baseline. And I can imagine some people might think, well, what's the point of bringing it to a baseline if it's just going to go back to stress? The more time you can spend in that less stressed place, the more benefits to your health. The more time you spend in the chronic stress space, the more harm to your health and your body and your mind. And if you listen to my second episode of my first series where I talked about our cancer journey as a family with my husband who passed away from kidney cancer in 2024, I had kind of made the assertion, or I just posed the question of, I wonder, considering that he experienced a lot of anxiety and panic disorder earlier on, well before the cancer ever came into play. And I just posed, and we know of more and more cancer cases, heart disease cases, everything is reaching younger and younger people. So I posed the question, I wonder what role we're going to see in the future that stress actually plays in these chronic illnesses and in these devastating illnesses like cancer. And they're hitting people in their 30s and younger more and more. So again, I just feel stress management can help with prevention and can help with treatment as a supplement for these health conditions. Right. And I did want to just say that I am not a doctor. I'm not a medical practitioner. I am a health education specialist. I'm certified to talk about health and wellness from an evidence-based perspective, and just to share what is out there, and that I try to share things that are available to the public. So that way I'm empowering you to know what sources are good sources that you can trust, that you can find on your own, and that you're empowered to utilize in your personal life as a supplement for whatever your doctor and you talk about and decide is best for your health and well-being. All right, so what are the types of stressors? And just problem solve a little. Are any of these things we can work around, remove, avoid if we know those are major triggers for us, for our stress response to be set off? And I do want to just again mention the caveat that if you are someone who really struggles with certain mental health conditions, this these techniques can be helpful, but you just might also need more clinical and specific approaches to cope with the type of stress or the trigger for the stress that you're experiencing in your body. For example, if you have CPTSD, those triggers might need to be worked out with a counselor who is a certified licensed therapist, counselor, psychologist, someone who trauma specialist, someone who really does have the tools to safely help you through that. These techniques that I give typically can be helpful for a lot of that. But again, I am not a licensed therapist. I am not a doctor. I am a health educator. I'm a community health worker. I'm going to provide you with my sources, and I can explain things and share knowledge. That's where I'm coming from. So please don't take this as medical advice from a provider or a licensed therapist, because I am not those things. So just getting back on track with how I approach this as a health coach. So I'm always going to ask people, how are you managing your stress? How much stress are you experiencing right now? And what are the sources of stress? What are your ways that you cope with those stressors? And as long as the person is willing to share those things, we can dive into all of it. The last component of my questions is, what do you do to manage your stress? 60 to 70% of the time, I will hear absolutely nothing. I don't do anything to manage my stress. I'm just winging it, and I'm not managing very well. I'm a 1 on that scale, and I don't do anything for it. So that's where I like to start talking. And sometimes people, so if someone tells me that I'm not doing anything to manage my stress, I am just flailing around over here. That's when I start asking, okay, so if you're not doing anything in particular right now, do you mind if I just go through a few items and you can tell me if you either like those things or don't like those things, or would be interested to learn more, or would be interested in doing those things for stress management purposes? And that's when I get the chance to just list off a bunch of stuff and see what people like and see what they might be interested in. Because if they want to work on a stress management goal, then having this list available of items you can do to engage in the process of managing your stress, meaning bringing your central nervous system down to that baseline relaxation state, or trying to get at least to a state where you can kind of cope with it and manage it, or endure that discomfort and get through the situation. Something I often will hear, screens. People will be like, I like to watch my show and just kind of like tune out, or I like video games and I tune out. I like to just do stuff on my phone, social media, like I just kind of like to zone out and do that kind of stuff. And that gives me that opportunity, again, to just kind of talk about screen activities like what you mentioned can be beneficial in certain things. First of all, it can, if you are so heightened and your stress is so high, that is what's going to just cool the temperature a little bit for you, so that you can get to that next step of maybe doing a relaxation activity to relax that central nervous system. Then okay, that might be beneficial if it's just an enjoyment activity. So if that's what you love to do, that's fine too. Again, within reason, right? And within healthy bounds, which I can tell you what the research says, and then there's a combination of here's what the research says, and then whatever the individual says is helpful. Most people know when they're engaging in things that are not feeling the best for them and feeling the best for their body. So people who engage in like doom scrolling typically know that it doesn't make them feel good, and that it would probably be better for them to not do it as much or not do it at all. People typically know these things. I don't usually have to tell people things about health and wellness. A lot of people know a lot. We all know veggie's good, sugar bad, right? We kind of know these things. Same with stress. Being on my screen too much, not good. Doing deep breathing activities and meditation, probably better, right? So most people kind of know these things. So I'll ask people, so here's some of the ones, and I'll just pose this, and you can kind of take this list, or maybe this will give you some ideas, but this is what I usually will say. Are you interested, or have you enjoyed in the past, or do you definitely not like meditation, deep breathing techniques, creative endeavors like painting, drawing, coloring, writing, art, reading books, listening to music, taking a long hot or warm bath, and maybe even adding different elements to the bath to make it even more relaxing, like essential oils, or different salts, or candles, or music, whatever it is that you like to do that it makes that bath even more nourishing and more relaxing for your body. Getting your nails done or doing your nails at home. music, playing instruments, learning instruments, going to drum circles, or things where you're engaging with others in improv music or even prepared music. Exercise or walking, being outside, being in nature, anything that has to do with being in nature, bird watching, hiking, camping. And then, of course, support systems. I'll talk a little bit about support systems with people and, who are part of your support systems, and are there people who help support you when in times of stress or hardships? Who are those people? Do you have people in your life, whether it is a licensed counselor or just a trusted friend or loved one or parent or grandparent or family member who you can be totally honest with, and that you can talk to that person about anything and not receive a judgmental response? Or if you're going to receive a judgmental response, you're truly okay with it. It doesn't bother you, as long as you get to verbalize what you need to verbalize. But as long as you have someone, a compassionate person, to listen to you and that you feel you can be open with, or even it doesn't have to all be one person, right? Maybe we have some people we could talk to about certain things, but not other things. That's also fine. We don't need to put all our eggs in one basket. There's no one person who's going to meet all of our needs. So I'll ask about that. If you're working with a counselor and if they are part of how you manage your stress or learning how to manage your stress. So what things do you like to do or enjoy doing, or would you be interested in doing, that do not involve screens, that you can do to help you manage your stress? So those are some of the things that I would typically go down that kind of stress management rabbit hole. So then back to our goals, right? When we're setting these goals and when we're really trying to make this something, some things to think about. First of all, that long-term goal. By the end of the year, I want to be less stressed, right? That's a big, very general goal. Under that umbrella, it means in times of stress, I will know 3 coping techniques, and that I actually do any of those 3 coping techniques as a habit to manage stress. So in times of stress, I will do a meditation, right? And that doesn't have to be an hour-long meditation. It can literally be just a few minutes long, just a Band-Aid meditation to help bring you back a little bit. Again, it's not going to necessarily solve the stress or resolve the stress, but it can help you cope in the moment. So maybe our goal is we want to have established 3 techniques that we will actually enjoy and utilize for the purposes of stress management by the end of the year. Right now, maybe we're doing none of those things. So maybe we take one item and we really work on that and we practice it in times of non-stress. Or maybe you're already stressed, but what I mean is you're practicing it on a regular basis so that your body and your mind develops the muscle memory for that activity and you remember to do that activity when you need it. Because what's the point of having tools in your toolbox that you don't utilize? Right? So you want to actually pick things that you could do for certain types of stress that you might be more prone to. And so the way that might look like a mini habit when you break it down to your daily goal or your monthly goal, maybe you say once a week, I will do a 10-minute stress relief activity. And then maybe you have your list of some of those activities that you might be interested in because you don't want to think, in the moment, you want to just have a list there and you can say, you know what, I'm up for coloring right now. So I'm going to get my adult coloring book out or whatever coloring book you want, and I'm going to color for 10 minutes. And I have found that regardless of the activity, as long as there's no looking at screens involved, just setting the intention that this is for the purpose of stress management is so powerful. Just being engaged and intentional about it, I think, changes things significantly. So if you want to set a stress management goal and I'm working with you and I'm in my health coach role, I would be setting a very specific health stress management goal, right? We would say, and I don't usually set the goals. The person sets the goals. I give you the framework and whoever I'm working with, you set the goal, you tell me what you want to plug in. But for example's sake, maybe this person is like, yeah, once a week, I'm going to do 10 minutes of stress management. Or maybe they're like, you know what, that once a week, I'm going to forget about that. Let's do a daily 2-minute and I'll do it right when I wake up. I won't even get out of bed and I'll do a 2-minute deep breathing activity. Again, it's just dependent on you as a person and your personality and what's going to work better for you and what your schedule allows and what you feel confident about and what you feel like you can actually achieve. It almost doesn't matter what the goal is. What's more important is that you pick something you can achieve. Achievement begets achievement. So we need to achieve these goals so that it can keep building and building, and we can build that lifestyle around that particular thing you're working on. So you want to build a lifestyle or behavior that will help you truly manage your stress. Again, this is our stress. We own it. It's something we're experiencing in our body, and it's our job to find out what we can do to help ourselves in those situations. So that's how I would approach it. Okay, so we're going to, again, SMART goals, right? Specific, measurable, attainable, realistic, time bound. Specific, I'm going to do deep breathing, or I'm going to choose a stress relief activity off of my list once a week for 10 minutes. That's specific, right? We're saying I'm going to pick one of these items that are on this specific list that I have printed out and I put it up for me to look at, or I have it on my phone. I'm going to choose one of these items once a week for 10 minutes and specifically do that for stress relief. That's how we're going to make these things achievable. That's how it doesn't just float above our head and then all of a sudden it's the end of the year and you haven't done anything and you're still managing your stress poorly. So we know that probably a significant majority of Americans are plagued by stress and do not have great tools to cope with stress and are experiencing significant types of stress and are then experiencing health issues directly and indirectly related to the lack of managing that stress. I want to move into talking about what things we can actually do to manage stress and to cause that relaxation response to happen and to relieve the stress response. So again, you have to be actively engaged to switch on the relaxation response, and switching on the relaxation response switches off the stress response, right? They can't both be on at the same time. I always give this example when I'm in my sessions with people one-on-one or some of the groups that I've done. For example, picture that you're sitting in a quiet library and you're just reading or writing or doing something, studying, whatever. You're sitting at the table, it's all quiet, it's peaceful, everybody else is doing the same thing. And suddenly the alarm goes off, the fire alarm, and it starts beeping and it just jolts you out of your relax, right? You were just relaxing and reading and then boom, now you're activated. You're looking around. What is that? It startled you, right? That's your stress response, right? Your body's like, what was that? Danger. We don't know. We don't know what it is, but just assume danger because scary. Scared us, right? That's your body kind of activating the stress response, right? So typically when there's a stressor like that, boom, your stress response is activated and you look around and then, you see the library staff, nobody's stressing. They're like, oh, sorry, we're having issues with it. It keeps going off, every few days, whatever. Sorry, but we're fine. There's no fire or anything. And then you're like, oh, okay. And they turn it off, right? Okay. So we're good. We're safe. We're not in danger. Your body goes back to that relaxation. It turns on the relaxation response because now it's processed the information and you know that you are not in danger. You're returning to baseline. All right. Great. Moving along. So that's what we're trying to do. Your body naturally will activate the relaxation response, which turns off the stress response. If your body is in chronic stress and constant stress, it will not turn on that relaxation response on its own. You have to physically and intentionally do it. You have to train your body to turn off the stress response and activate the relaxation response. Here are some things you can do. All the things I mentioned in the beginning that are activities, but I'm going to really emphasize mindfulness and just some grounding techniques that you might be able to utilize in times when you're feeling overwhelmed. This is kind of like stress relief first aid kind of stuff. Like in the moment, you need to bring yourself down so that you can actually cope with the situation. So some grounding techniques. And then I went on to Cleveland Clinic on their website. They have a lot of great information too. 13 grounding techniques for when you feel overwhelmed. So it says focusing on what you can see, feel, touch, and hear can help you feel more present. Grounding techniques can help with depression, anxiety, PTSD, stress, can help with negative self-talk, sensory overload, dissociation, improving mindfulness, ruminating and overthinking, improves overall mood and well-being, and helps with feeling disoriented and disconnected. So in general, and I'm reading straight from the article, in general, grounding techniques are broken into 3 categories: mental, physical, and soothing. Think of these as different access points for you to calm down your mind and body. Mental grounding techniques. Number 1, imagine you are in a happy place. Personally, I have a happy place and I have 2 happy places. One is Dania Beach in South Florida, where I ran around all of high school. That is my happy beach with nobody on it in my when I do my meditations and I picture a place. And I have another place that is just a very big, wide open meadow that leads into a forest that leads to kind of like a secret little lake pond type thing where I will visualize myself going there to meditate. So those are my two spots. So if you take some time and just build that in your mind, if you're kind of like a person who has an imagination where you really see pictures in your mind like I do, just taking a moment and figuring out what would be that peaceful, happy place. And every time you do meditations, you picture yourself there, you picture that place. So coming up with your happy place and then imagining you are there. Then number 2, recite familiar facts. So it says an even simpler mental exercise is going back to the basics. When our mind is consumed by anxiety, we're being pelted with negative thoughts and worst case scenarios. For example, simply counting to 10 or reciting the alphabet. You can do this silently in your head. If you get to Z or 10 and you're still feeling tense, you do it again going backwards. So again, if one of these things works, I say pick like 3 things, or even just pick, I like having options. So personally, I'd say pick 3 things, write it down somewhere, and then establish a regular practice to do in times of non-stress. Because if you practice it during times of non-stress, you will be more likely to reach for it during times of actual stress. You don't want to be coming up with these in times of stress and trying to figure out which things work. Number 3, put things in categories. Sometimes when your mind is a mess, it's good to give yourself a task. Categorizing can be an easy way to focus your mind away from the worries. Take a couple minutes to categorize a couple items on your desk. Maybe it's color, size, texture. Maybe you put all the scattered pens around you in one pile, highlighters in another. Refocusing your attention can help you refocus your mind. Then it goes into the physical grounding techniques. So physical grounding techniques focus on how your senses can help you feel present. These exercises mainly focus on what you can see, feel, touch, hear, and taste. Number 4 on their list is to tune into your senses. If anyone has ever heard of the 3-3-3 technique or the 5-4-3-2-1 technique, they're kind of a similar thing. But for the 3-3-3, you focus on 3 items that you can see, 3 items you can hear, and 3 items you can touch. For the 5-4-3-2-1, it's 5 things you can see, 4 things you can touch, 3 things you can hear, 2 things you can smell, 1 thing you can taste. So that is another one. If that speaks to you, start practicing that. Practice it right now. You can pause this and just think to yourself right now, what are 3 things that you see? What are 3 things that you hear? And what are 3 things you can touch? Same with the 5-4-3-2-1. 5 things you can see, 4 things you can touch, 3 things you can hear, 2 things you can smell, 1 thing you can taste. Whichever you want to try and see what it feels like for you to do those things. Number 5, clench and release your fists. Number 6, put your body in water. Number 7, stretch your limbs. Number 8, take deep breaths. And it gives you several different breathing techniques, the 4-7-8 breathing exercise, the 5-finger breathing, the box breathing, and alternate nostril breathing. So it gives you how-tos if you want to go into each of them. I personally like just kind of center myself, close my eyes, put my hand on my chest, and maybe even put my other hand on my tummy. And I breathe in, filling up my tummy first, then my chest, and I hold it. And I try to breathe in really slow, deep, nourishing breathing. And I do some visualization typically as well. I like to imagine that I'm inhaling like a sparkly golden divine light into my body, and that divine light then pushes out all of the sludgy, negative, yucky stuff that is in my body that I don't want on my exhale. So I do that visualization. That's kind of where I've landed over the years with what works for me. So I inhale super slow, deep, and then I try to exhale for double the amount of time that I inhale. And I typically inhale through nostrils and exhale through pursed lips. So that's how I like to do it. So I usually will breathe in, hold for a second or 2, exhale. I inhale filling my belly first, then my chest, and just to keep track of your shoulders that they don't inch up to your ears. So keeping those shoulders nice and tucked down as you're breathing. Your posture should be nice and chest open, comfortably, neutral spine. You're breathing in, you're filling up the tummy first, then you fill up your chest, and then you hold for a second or two, and you exhale in the same direction. Exhale, empty. Yeah, and then I go back the way I came. So I empty the chest, and then I empty the tummy. And having your hand on your chest and your tummy can help you just connect that. If you struggle with a mind-body connection, that can help to just kind of ground you in the breathing, and the breathing is grounding you to your moment, right? And I like to do, as many breaths as you can, but if you can do a regular deep breathing practice of 10 deep breaths in the way that I mentioned, or any of these other ones that they suggest, or whatever works for you, doing those on a regular basis, again, it's easier to pull out that tool when you actually need it, when you practice under less stressful conditions, when you're just at home and there's nothing going on and you're just practicing your breathing. You're more likely to pull that tool out when you actually need it in times of stress. All right, soothing grounding techniques. So soothing grounding techniques promote good feelings and help remove negative thoughts that may be consuming your mind. Some of these may overlap with physical and mental techniques above. So number 9, cuddle your pet. Number 10, repeat positive statements to yourself. So this is kind of part of that positive thinking. And this one you want to be a little careful because some of these might not be soothing for you. Some of the ones they recommend are, it says she recommends saying things that will make you feel reassured and safe. And again, if you struggle believing these things, that may do more harm than good. But she says, everything is going to be okay. I am safe in this environment. It's okay that I feel upset. I am strong in this moment. A lot of the people that I've worked with who struggle with that critical or harsh self-talk would feel rejecting of the everything is going to be okay one and the I am strong in this moment one. I can definitely imagine people just rejecting that on a physical level, like, well, everything's not going to be okay. And sometimes it's not going to be okay. So, just pick statements. Like one thing that I would work on with people who struggle with positive self-talk is instead of having the positive self-talk, instead of having the I love myself, I am great, whatever, the positive things, it's easier for people to work on just neutral statements. So in this moment, I am in my room and I am safe. Or, in this moment, everything might not be okay, but I have support around me to help me through, or something like that. Just trying to come up with something more neutral that's not going to make you feel like you're rejecting it. Number 11 is do something creative. I mentioned this at the very beginning when I went through the relaxation ideas. So it says creativity can also play a role in calming your nervous system down. Focusing on just coloring, picking your next color keeps you in the moment and distracts you from those emotions. Number 12, listen to music. Number 13, connect with nature. And it doesn't mention it in here, but exercise or deep breathing and exercise I like because it forces you to be mindful. And that's what kind of these all are in the realm of mindfulness, right? Grounding techniques are in the realm of mindfulness. Mindfulness is basically just being aware and being present and not denying what is happening, right? Like we're just bringing ourselves and we are not judging. We are just observing. We're just bringing ourselves into this present moment. Anxiety often lives in the future, right? It's often some concern of what is going to happen or what could happen or what's to come. And doing grounding techniques grounds you in the here and now and helps you cope with that anxiety because the anxiety is living in the future a lot of the times. I heard something a long time ago, and again, this is probably not evidence-based, so don't take it as such. It was just an anecdote that I felt spoke to me. Clinical chronic depression can be something different, but certain people's types of depression or pain lives in the past. Anxiety lives in the future. And so we want to try to get to the present to balance those things and to not feel the stress of either of them. And again, this is not people who have these conditions where it's not as simple as just practicing mindfulness. But again, these are always worthwhile practices and techniques to work on and to improve upon and to create as part of your overall wellness approach to life. All right, so I think this is a good place to stop. And I'm going to go ahead and, like I said, lead a brief meditation. If you would like to engage in this, I want you to, if you can, wherever you are, or if you want to save it for a time when you can just kind of be in a safe place and by yourself or with somebody else that you want to do this with, I just recommend you either get into a comfortable seated position, but I personally like to meditate laying down. I think most things you're going to see are going to recommend to be seated, but as long as you are in a safe place that you can do this and not be interrupted, get into a comfortable position for your body and just take a moment and let's do a quick body scan. Let's put one hand over our chest, one hand on our belly, and we're just going to do some deep breathing, and we're going to focus on different parts of our body. So this is another form of mindfulness called body scanning. So take a deep breath through your nostrils. Slow, deep, nourishing breath, filling up the belly first and the chest next. So inhale. Hold it for 1 or 2 seconds and then exhale. Fully empty the belly. And we're going to do 2 more just like that at your own pace. Inhale through your nose. And again. And go ahead and focus your attention on your feet. Just think about your feet. Think about your toes being either flat on the ground that is supporting you, or how are your feet laying if you're laying down? Are they flopped out to the side? Are they straight up? Are they pointing in? Are they cold? Are they touching each other? Just bring your attention to your feet. And we're going to take a deep breath here and imagine sending oxygen to your feet from your breath. Imagine that oxygen. I like to picture that divine, sparkly, golden white light coming in through my nose, filling up all of my body and specifically going right down to my feet. Now bring your attention to your shins, your ankles and your shins. Just think about your ankles and your shins. Inhale and send the oxygen, divine light, whatever you want to picture, sending it to your shins now. Your feet are already filled up. Now your shins. Inhale. And you can keep your eyes closed or just soft, gentle gaze. Either way is fine. And now we're going to do our knees and thighs. So think about your knees. What are they doing right now? Are they clenched? Are they relaxed? Is there any pain there, aches and pains that you live with? We're not creating any stories about what we're observing. We're simply observing. And we're going to breathe in and send that oxygen to our knees and thighs. Inhale. Next, we're going to focus our attention on our pelvis, our hips, our glutes. We're going to inhale and send that oxygen to that area and all the aches and pains, and we are not having any stories created. We are just observing. Go ahead and inhale, send the oxygen to that entire area. And exhale. Next, we're going to Focus in on our abdomen and our trunk and our back, that belly area. What do we feel there? Are we hungry? Is our tummy grumbling like mine is? Do we have back pain down there? Again, just observing. We're not doing anything with that information other than observing. We're going to send all that beautiful oxygen to our entire abdomen and trunk area. Go ahead and inhale. Exhale. Now we're going to bring our attention to our chest area, our shoulder blades, and even the top of our shoulders, all of our arms, that whole area, chest, upper back, shoulders, arms. Again, just go through those parts and take stock of how you feel. How are there any aches and pains there? Is there anything in particular going on? Do you feel particularly strong in those areas? And again, not building any kind of stories. We are just observing. Go ahead and send all that beautiful oxygen to those areas. Inhale. Exhale. Focusing our attention now on our neck and our jaw. Are we clenching there? Where do we hold our stress? Are you a jaw clencher? Are you a neck clencher? Focus on those areas, your face, your ears, all of that, and just relax the areas. Breathe into the neck, into the ears, into the face. Inhale, your jaw, relax. Exhale. Now focusing on the top of your head, your scalp, back of your head, your hair. What's going on there? What do you feel? What do you experience? Not building a story. We are going to go ahead and inhale and send that oxygen to that entire area. And now just breathe normally for a few breaths and just take that in. And let's gently open our eyes, softly, peacefully, and just think about your body right now. And if you feel that your body is physically more relaxed than when you first started this meditation, again, we're not building a story, we are just observing. If you're having a hard time not focusing on your thoughts that are coming up, and we will have thoughts coming up that when I used to run my meditation group, someone in there said a quote that I will never forget, and I always repeat it, and it is, brains are going to brain, minds are going to mind. We will have thoughts popping up when we sit still and we sit in silence and relaxation. But the more you practice and the longer you sit, the more the mind settles. It has to get the monkey energy out, monkey brain energy out. That's why I like a body scan like this, because it allows you to physically relax so your mind can follow. But when you have those thoughts, I like to either picture putting the thought in, I picture a red balloon. You can pick whatever color, but I put it in a red balloon and I set that balloon into the sky and I watch that thought float away. Another imagery I like is just, it's like watching clouds pass. Imagine your thoughts are the clouds, right? When we're watching clouds and Remember when you're a kid and you're looking at the clouds and you're seeing all these formations, you're not developing any judgment about the clouds. You're simply seeing them there. Wow, that one looks like a cat. Wow, that one looks like a castle. We're not saying anything else about it. It's just pointing out what it is. And you allow those clouds to pass. One more imagery I think is helpful is your thought is like a leaf, and that leaf is placed onto a stream and carried away. So if any of those images help you with releasing thoughts or separating yourself a little bit from the thoughts, I just want to close this practice with gratitude. I'm thankful for all of you doing this with me, and I'm thankful for being safe today. I'm thankful that my children are safe. Thankful that my friends are safe. And I'm sending out all of the thoughts for safety for you and yours now and always. Thank you.